Dear America, in 1947 the government of the United Kingdom established the National Health Service. It had at its heart three basic principles. It would meet the needs of everyone, it would be free at the point of service, and it would be based on clinical needs, not the ability to pay. The National Health Service is still running over 60 years afterwards. I know that in the United States there is currently a debate concerning medical reform. Ultimately, what reforms, if any, are a matter for the people of America to decide. So although I've paid attention to the discussion, I have done so as an observer, not a participant. That is until now, because a few days ago I saw this video on YouTube.
You know, when you were last on the program, you put so much emphasis. You looked in the camera and you said, if you only remember one thing from this interview, please remember, do not follow us down the road of socialism. Do not nationalize your health care. And we got more mail, more responses, more people, I think, getting it. You know, for many, many years, for example, I have focused on the papers in Great Britain and in Canada and in France talking about the inefficiency and the lack of quality care that exists under that system. Can you explain with some specificity why you are giving such a dire warning to the people of the United States?
Because you're our friends, and if you see a friend about to make a terrible mistake, you try and warn him. And we've lived through this mistake. We've lived through this mistake for 60 years now. It began with the best of intentions. It began because people thought it was wrong for those who weren't well off and couldn't afford the best health care to be treated differently, and everyone felt, well, it's kind of a nice togetherness, kind of solidarity thing if we all take part in this experiment. But the reality is it hasn't worked. It has made people iller. We spend a lot of money and we get very bad results. You look at survival rates for cancer or heart disease, we are well down on all the leagues. We have very few doctors. We disincentivize people from practicing medicine in this country. A lot of our best and brightest doctors emigrate. A lot of them go to North America because there's no market. There's nothing that helps them. And of course, the government for a long time would always say, well, we can just make this work a little bit more if we spend more. So the current government has almost increased by about 80% spending on healthcare. But of course, as long as you have a socialist system, no amount of extra spending is going to rescue it. And so there was an absolutely neat example of the unplanned consequences of socialism. The government decreed centrally that all general practitioners were going to get a big pay rise. Well, doctors are human beings. They understandably started working shorter hours. Yeah. So the effect of this massive injection of government cash wasn't just to be useless, it actually made it worse.
I read the Daily...
I will deal with some of the specific allegations made by Daniel Hannon and Hannity in later videos, but I want to restrict this video to make one point. Hannon's views are not typical of the views of the residents of the United Kingdom, nor of its politicians. Here is John Prescott, the ex-deputy leader of the Labour Party.
Hello, my name is John Prescott. I was the Deputy Prime Minister Tony Blair for 10 years. I was over in America a few weeks ago, and I listened with great interest to the controversial debate about health now taking place in America. But I was appalled to hear a British parliamentarian, Mr. Daniel Hannon, giving you a misrepresentation of the National Health Service here in Britain. I was staggered by that. It is a controversial issue, but I'm bound to say I'm sitting here on the House of Commons terrace in this wonderful House of Commons that had this debate over 60 years ago. It was a political, a social and a moral issue. Did you provide health universally, or did you leave it to the market and by payment? They made the decision here in 1947 to provide it treatment based upon need and not your ability to pay. That is the essential issue. But curiously enough, it was opposed by the doctors, it was opposed by the insurance companies, and opposed by the Tory party too. And therefore I have to say you should treat these remarks from Mr. Hannon with that kind of scepticism. Where he may be right, he talked about high waiting lists in the health service. That's true. That's what we inherited in 1997. That was after 18 years of a rundown of our health service of Mrs. Thatcher. Now, we have poured a lot of money into the health service, and by the way, the proportion of money going to our health on GDP is still a lot less than America, and we treat it universally, not dependent on the market and the price system. So I did wonder whether the figures in Mr. Hannon's area were right. So I asked the library in the House of Commons to give me some figures. We all accept in Britain that the library is pretty impartial, and they have said that, look in Mr. Hannon's area in the South East, that the amounts of mortality, deaths on 100,000 people in 10 years between 1997 and 2007 has gone down 25%, deaths from cancer down by 16%, heart disease by 25%, stroke by 42%, and life expectancy's gone up extra 7 years. Now that's one kind of good record in his constituency. And I was in there last night, and they were appalled that he was saying nobody would want to wish a health service. He should have told them that when he got elected. But in reality, we're proud of our health service. Over 90% of people think it's a very good service. But to my mind, it's based on any civilized society that the treatment of medical need should be based upon your need and not your ability to pay. We had that argument 60-odd years ago, and the people in this country in Britain would never change it. That's the reality of the difference between a universally provided health system, which is working, and the one where the market provides, which depends on whether you can afford to pay for it.
And here is David Cameron, the leader of the Conservative Party, the very party that Daniel Hannon is a member of. If the opinion polls are correct, David Cameron will be the next Prime Minister.
Yesterday I came out straight away and said that I don't agree with Daniel Hannon, and the Conservative Party stands foursquare behind the NHS. We are the party of the NHS, we back it, we're going to expand it, we've ring-fenced it and said it will get more money under a Conservative government, and it is our #1 mission to improve it. If you remember a few conference speeches ago, I said you could sum up our priorities in 3 letters, NHS. That's as true today as it was then.
Why did you not come down on him harder? Should he not have been disciplined for his remarks?
Well, he does have some quite eccentric views about some things, and political parties always include some people who don't toe the party line on one issue or another issue. But no one should be in any doubt that for the Conservative Party, the NHS is our #1 priority. We'll invest in it, we'll expand it. We think it's a really important and great national institution. The fact that in this country you can go to a hospital, you can go to a family doctor, and they don't ask you how much money's in your bank account, or who you are, or whether you're a man or a woman, or live in the town or the countryside. It's one of our great national institutions, and we want to expand it and improve it.
Quite different in America, of course. What do you say to Americans? Have they got the wrong end of the stick?
Well, I think every country has to choose its own path and its own health system. We've made our choice in Britain. It's a free national health service available to everyone, irrespective of their wealth, and I think that's the right choice. It works well for us. We need to improve on it. Our health outcomes in terms of survival rates, in terms of things like cancer and stroke and heart disease aren't good enough. We need to do more, but I think we've got the right system and we should stick with it and build on it.
I don't know, maybe Fox is going to restore a little bit of sanity into the debate here.
So I hope in America you have a good debate, and I'm sure you will. It is a decision for the American people, but do not base it on the misrepresentation that Mr. Hannon's been giving you to feed the forces of the right in America. You've got the same battle, it's the same moral issue. I wish you well in the debate.